Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Liz West. And over the next hour, we're going to be talking about tariffs and trade wars, investment and pension pressures, and insurance and estate planning. This is Financial Fitness Explained. And we're going to start with financial powerhouse, Pattie Lovett-Reid. Now, Pattie brings a wealth of experience as a banker, certified financial planner, best-selling author, and former TV pundit to her position as Chief Financial Commentator for Home Equity Bank. And Pattie's passionate about informing and educating Canadians 55 and over about options in retirement. Welcome to the show.
Could we not
Great to see you.
Had different topics?
No, well, listen, I think that if anything, it could not be more timely to talk about finances. And I'm sure your friends and family are probably calling you, and your phone's off the hook with calls, right?
I'm on Instagram, for example, and the number of direct messages, because
Really?
people are worried. I mean, this is a really uncomfortable period. The markets are absolutely decimating portfolios right now.
Right.
And there are a lot of questions, but we don't have a lot of answers.
So what are people most uncomfortable or worried about right now?
Just how much they've actually lost in their portfolio, particularly those who are in retirement or thinking about retirement, because they don't feel that they have time on their side to make up for the losses in these markets that literally around the globe are trillions of dollars. And, the only thing I can say to you, because I have been around a long time. I have seen the markets pull back. We have seen 10% pullbacks in the market on an annual basis. Does it feel differently this time? I can tell you that going back to the Asian currency crisis, we said it felt different this time. We recovered. We saw it in the dot-com bubble. We saw it in 9/11. Then when the Asian markets crashed again, COVID. We saw it again, and now we've got the Trump trade. It takes time. It's hard. If you have a portfolio, Liz, here's what I would say. It's probably been built for this. It doesn't feel good. Think about turbulence in an airplane. We don't like it. It's uncomfortable. We feel shaky, but you don't jump out of the plane. And so,
I love that analogy.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Nobody wants to jump out of a plane, so that's
at exactly the wrong time. And it's the same sort of thing with your portfolio. And I am a certified financial planner, and I felt that way. I reached out to our planner to say, okay, how well are we built for this sort of turbulence? You want to stay up to date, but you don't want to panic.
Yeah, and yet this advice of stay the course can be difficult to do.
Yeah, because it's emotional. Like almost every decision you make financially, there is a tremendous amount of emotion attached to it. And, I'm trying to say to people and to myself, be calm as we go through the market's downward spiral, but also be calm when they spiral up. We've seen bounces before in these markets, and you don't want to get too emotional when actually staying the course and doing nothing is probably the best response when it least feels like it.
And aren't there different types of investors? I tell my husband, and he'll say, well, this is probably a great time to buy because this is happening. I said, yeah, but we're not those people. Like, we aren't day traders.
No, fair enough.
That's a different animal.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And, so is it a time to buy? Here's what I know. We will watch the markets go down. And when the last retail investor, you and I, finally throw in the towel, we call that capitulation, where we've had enough and we can't take it anymore. And guess what? The institutional investors, those that manage the big money, they swoop in at our expense. So we are actually selling low and they are buying low. And so it's hard to do, but if you have good quality companies that have strong fundamentals, they've been beaten down like everyone else, they pay you a dividend, you're being paid to wait. And I'll throw out there, in this type of market, or if we go into a recession, there's no guarantee that we will.
Just a threat.
It's a threat, and a lot of people are talking about it. Look for the income-producing, dividend-paying sectors, financials, utilities, pipeline, consumer staples, that sort of thing. They tend to help you weather the storm.
And so is that the recommended course of action?
You know, my recommended course of action is to see if you're balanced. How much do you have in cash, in bonds, as well as in the stock market? Are you in good quality investments? And, you know, what is your tolerance for risk? You know, Liz, if you're not sleeping at night, then you may need to do something. But it's how much are you willing to lose in this market? How much can you afford to lose? And if you have a 5-year time horizon, then I would say you weather this storm as best you can. I do believe we're going to get through it, but it's going to take time.
That's interesting. Okay, so 5 years is what you have sort of as
If
you're not, you know, going to start depending on pulling out the funds,
Yeah.
you've got a comfortable 5 years. You can just breathe.
You know, and you want to make sure that you have cash for living expenses to get you through. The last thing you want to do is sell out of one of your positions at exactly the wrong time to, you know, satisfy an expense, mortgage, or it could be rent, or it could be food. And you know, without overtly, I am the chief financial commentator for Home Equity Bank, but you have to look at all of your resources to fund your retirement. And I say it may be a product for someone going through this period right now. It won't be for everyone. But some may need to say to themselves, I have a lot of equity right now built up in my home, but not in my portfolio. So maybe I need to be a little more strategic and look at everything.
Okay, and we're going to get into that
Sure,
as well later.
sure.
I want to ask you, one of your mantras, I guess, is that you don't have to have $1 million to have a millionaire's mentality.
Right.
Right? And so how do wealthy people treat this differently than us?
You know, it is fascinating because in previous jobs I've dealt with people who have millions of dollars of investable assets, and you think they don't have anything to worry about. And one of the big life lessons that I did get from them is that they're never frivolous. Just because you can afford to spend doesn't mean you necessarily should. Our economy right now does need those who can afford to spend responsibly. They will never borrow to consume, to go on a vacation, to buy a luxury good, but they will borrow to invest. They'll invest in themselves, in their homes, in their family. It could be in their business. I find it fascinating as well that they will stand back and they will say, you know, the next big thing is right around the corner. We don't know when the markets will turn or when an opportunity presents itself. It's not going to put up a white flag and say, it's time to get back in now or time to do this now. But they're always looking. The other thing is when it comes to a legacy, many people will say it's not about the money. It isn't about the money. But building a legacy that is who you are, what you represent, you know, how you spent time with your family, that sort of thing, those things still really matter. Money, you know what? You get it right from a tax perspective. You're equitable. You've communicated. That's the easy part of a legacy.
Interesting. What would you say are some of the mistakes that retirees make?
They fall in love with their assets.
For example?
For example, you know.
Someone's laughing in the audience.
Well, they could. Like, you know, nobody.
Like, yeah, I kind of know that person,
You know,
or it's
nobody
me.
ever buys into a particular position or a stock thinking, I'm buying this because it's going to go down. No. They buy it because they think there's some upside potential. Or they may have to sell their home. They love their home. Your home is never going to love you back, which was a big reason I, again, decided to take this position at Home Equity, because people have in their mindset, I paid off my mortgage. I don't want to owe money again. That's the wrong way to look at it.
Really?
It is.
What?
Because you know, if you take out a reverse mortgage, what it allows you to do is take some of the equity that you've built so long and hard to get to, and it's an emergency fund, and it can pay you back now. And to me, that can make a lot of sense. People think they're getting the best deal. They're not. Negotiate everything. The answer is always
Wait,
no.
don't. Okay, what do you mean negotiate? Yeah, tell me
Negotiate.
more about that.
So you have a rate that you may be getting on a guaranteed investment certificate. Wait a minute. Like if you have all of my business, is this the best you can do for me? Not necessarily. Or when you go in and sometimes you're shopping, my mother, who's 92, still negotiates everything. And she says, if you see a quarter on the ground, do you bend down and pick it up, Patty? And she goes, because if you don't, I taught you better than that. You better pick that up. Right. And she means it.
Sure.
Oh, she means it. So you do need to negotiate. You know, what about your cable bill or wireless transactions? Yeah. All of these things. Yeah.
Everything's negotiable.
Everything,
almost.
And
almost.
And if it's no, who cares? Then you're still paying what they say.
Some people are very uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable, but you should see my brother, Matt, cheapest, I hope he watches it. Cheapest guy I've ever met in my life.
Your brother?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Cheap meaning
he'll
he's always looking for a deal. Oh,
everything.
Maybe that's
when we
smart.
go out for dinner, he goes to the washroom when the bill comes. Like, I love you. But on the other hand, he says to me, oh, I didn't know. Don't worry about it. But he is a great guy in so many other ways.
Sure.
But no, I'm not saying you skip out on a bill, but I'm saying it's, negotiate it. By the way, when people are looking at their net worth right now in life ever, it does not equate to self-worth. And some people, because they may have more money, think they are better than everyone else, and they are not. And so don't fall for that trap. Can I throw my big one?
Of course.
Why don't I just why don't I just rant?
No, this is good. I'm enjoying.
You know what? Golden years. I was at my mother-in-law's funeral, and I was in my early 40s, and one of her colleagues came up to me and said, are you open to some advice? And I said, always. And she said, your golden years are right now. And I looked at her and I said, I don't understand what you mean. And I looked at my husband and I said, how old do they think I am? She said, no, that's not the right thing. My own biological father died at 36 of a heart attack, and it was very quick. I was 9. So I should get this better than most. And she said, none of us know how long we have. We don't. So regardless of what's going on in the markets, in the economy, in your life, you have today, and you need to make the most of it. And so your golden years, regardless of your age, are right now. Like right now. And I've never forgotten it. And so, again, putting off things until tomorrow, when you may have the resources to do things today and figure out how to do it today, do it. Do it.
I love that. If nothing else, that's the thing to remember.
That's the one thing I want. Yes.
It's because it feeds into everything else. I want to ask you about like this concept of wealth and success and how
thank you.
That changes, especially when it comes to what kind of legacy you want to leave.
Once again, I'll say I've been in this business a long time, and people define wealth very differently. You think it's your bank account. No. It's not. I have seen people say, I define myself as being wealthy because I've climbed the corporate ladder. I'm living out my dream. I've started my own business. I've got a great education. Others will say to me, that's not how I define wealth. I define it by virtue of my family and my friends, giving back to the community. Others, and again, I pull back in the reverse mortgage, and I wrote a blog on this because people want to give, to your point, their legacy today. They may want to help out their children buy their first home, so they'll take equity out of their home to help them do that. Go on the family vacation they always talked about, a recreational, pay for their their grandchildren's education. I mean, the list goes on. And so it's a matter of, sure, look at your balance sheet. For some, that may be it. Others will tell me it's a healthy body and a healthy mind. Yeah, I get that. But just everybody defines it differently. It's finding what really resonates with you and what does wealth mean to you.
You've given everybody a lot to think about. That is for sure broader than just about money, dollars and cents, and what's in your portfolio. Can I ask what you're doing at the moment to sort of survive the rocky seas that we're in?
I didn't coin this phrase, but I'm trying to live it. This is my year for yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, yes to new opportunities, new challenges, new experiences. Our daughter just gave birth to twins, and she has...
Congratulations.
I know, but we have 9 grandchildren,
Wow.
1 granddaughter.
That's a
All the
legacy.
rest are boys. Yeah, you know.
Wow,
you know
you've got a baseball team,
a soccer team,
a boy band,
no, but
a
what I
soccer
can actually
team.
tell you
This is good.
No, but what I can tell you is one of the things that my husband and I decided to do was fund their education.
What?
I have to be
like
the
before they were born.
9, and my son says that we might be having another one too. And I'm thinking, 10 children, 10 grandchildren going through a post-secondary education. Do the math.
A lot of grants.
We actually may be following the advice I'm giving, but it's a lot of fun. It's the year of yes. And I see you have Home Run here.
I do.
That is
Terrific book with
It's-
lots of great information inside.
I know, and I have to laugh because I didn't know I was quoted in the book till I actually read the book. And then I went, oh, I like my quote too, if you get to it. But it does explain so much more than just a reverse mortgage, especially for people going through some financial challenges at this stage in their life.
And you can get a free copy of this book. I'm going to give you a number to call right now. It's well worth it. You know, it's small but mighty.
Yeah.
And you could sort of just do it in chunks too.
Yeah.
You don't have to read it like a novel. So just little bits and pieces, lots of takeaways. The number to call to get your copy of Home Run is 855-207-2656. Okay, well I feel like we've taken you away from such a busy time having
It's okay.
twin grandkids and 9 in total and all the rest of it.
It's a lot, but
Thank
it's
you
fun.
so much
It's
for
fun.
being here,
Thank
Patty.
you. Thanks,
Pleasure to
Liz.
see you
I
again.
hope we can do it again.
Yes, absolutely,
you.
especially based on the way conversations are going in society, right? It's
Yeah.
top of mind. So thanks so much for being with us.